Welcome to the Football Critters Podcast. I'm your host, the Otter, and with me is my beautiful co-host,
the bear.
and it's all edges today. What do you think about these edges in this class?
I actually like it a lot more than I thought I was going to. I think there's some good talent. I don't think there is an absolute elite. Like, we don't have any Nick Bosa's in this class or anybody of that type. But I do think there's some solid guys that could start day one for sure. Based on what we've seen so far, I'm really hoping that we don't see an edge until later in the draft, maybe like I don't know, past maybe like pick 20. But I still think somebody's going to take the first one off the board no matter what.
I mean, I think there's some guys worth taking shots on early in the first, but the deep part of it is definitely the meat is going to be like rounds 2 through 4. There's a lot of different flavors and talent
Oh, yeah.
levels in that range, and guys who are going to play different roles. Some guys, you're going to pick up some guys based off their like talent and measurables, but maybe their film's not that good. Or other guys are just really heady players, and they're going to be like probably not instant starters, but impact players.
Well, and some of these guys, it was tough to grade them at times just because of the rotational aspect at their position. Like, there were some guys where they rotated a lot more than I expected, and they're like some of the higher guys on our list.
Yeah, I have a bunch of guys that probably only got like 300 snaps a year, even though they were labeled as starters. I mean,
Yeah, that really shocked me. That's not the usual.
I think there's so much talent. They just need to rotate as much as. I don't know if that messes with people's conditioning, players' conditioning more.
I'll tell you this: I think the reason we saw Alabama fall this year was a little bit of that, taking their best players off the field. That was very obvious to me.
How about we get the ball rolling?
Yeah, let's get going.
How about you start off with your number 10 edge?
All right, my number 10 edge is Javon Solomon out of Troy.
Damn.
Yeah, man, dude, I like this guy a lot. I know it's a little bit of an unorthodox pick. Where did he end up on your list?
He actually was my number 13.
Okay, so not too far off.
No.
But dude, I know he is undersized. I think, what is he, 6'1"? Or no, he's 6'2", 245.
Well, I think the combine was 6'1", 246.
Okay. Well, I mean, that's still not terrible. Dude, this guy's got a high motor. He's a good speed rusher off the edge, and he's got good bend to him. Like, some of the technique stuff really impressed me for a guy going to Troy. I mean, his power wasn't terrific, but I thought he had a good read on the quarterback fairly often. Like, his eyes on the quarterback, I thought were, pretty great. Like I said, for a guy from a small school like that, I really like his potential.
Yeah, I mean, what I really like, despite him being a shorter player and maybe a little lighter, I liked his arm length. Like you can tell that he really was able to utilize his wingspan. Really didn't get himself caught up too much by tackles. And that, like you said, I mean, his bend mixed with his like first step really won him a lot of reps, at least at his competition level.
I can't remember. Did he get like 16 plus sacks? He had a ton of sacks.
He had 17 sacks.
Okay.
But he had a 14% pressure rate last year. Which, what I do like is in 2022, he also had a 14% pressure rate with 5 sacks, though. So, like, his sack numbers are going to fluctuate, but I like the fact that his pressure rate was consistent.
Like I said, I see him as a project guy, but man, I like his motor.
Yeah.
Dude, and like I said, for a speed rusher, I think he's fantastic.
It's funny because I saw it when I first put on the tape. I was like, man, this guy kind of looks like a big box safety, like just blitzing off the edge. But obviously, he's bigger than that. But
oh yeah,
it's just like his body type.
Well, he is probably about the size of a bigger safety.
Yeah, he's very muscular, and
yes.
And only I think sometimes, despite his size, he still struggled to get underneath people's pads.
Yeah, like I said, his strength wasn't the greatest. He definitely is like a one-trick pony.
Right.
He definitely get the bend, get the bend and speed over the edge was definitely his game.
I did like that he did have some counter to his game, but it wasn't consistent. Like
No, it wasn't.
he tried some things, and sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. And I don't know if that was just because he's a little smaller, he couldn't pull it off against certain tackles.
Like
But
I saw him. I think in his one of his earlier games this year, trying to do spin moves a few times, and it didn't work. And it's not. He just doesn't have the power. I think maybe bulking up a little bit in strength could help him. But yeah, man, I really like him. I do think the floor's a little low, but I do think the ceiling could be high as a speed rusher.
yeah, I have him penciled in as like a designated pass rusher for now, like
Absolutely.
developmental. Like I don't want him. I don't think he's ever going to be a 3 down guy.
No, I don't see him
I
as that either.
think he's a little maxed out on his frame, but with everything else for his size, he has great length. I noticed, and has enough athleticism to be an impact player.
I don't know why this is who comes to mind for me when I was watching him, but
Well, yeah, no, I think he's really. I would love him in like the third, fourth.
yeah, I mean that's kind of where I see him. I wouldn't be shocked if somebody moved up though to get him.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Speed
I mean,
rushers, dude. Ugh. So who's your number 10?
I actually have Austin Booker as
So
my number 10.
okay, side note, the guy I was telling you I wanted to talk about that didn't make my top 10 was
Is
Booker. I'm
Booker?
so glad I didn't bring him up. Dude, he's really interesting.
He is. He has fun tape because
He does.
you can tell he definitely thinks about the game a little bit more.
I agree, yeah.
He has pretty high football IQ with even though like he doesn't have that much experience. I think he gets more reps. I feel like he could really show out in the NFL with the right group around him.
I mean, let's talk about the elephant in the room here. This guy's 6'6", 245. He is lengthy as hell, and he uses the length
Oh hell,
to his advantage. Like I think he's really good with using his length in tackling,
he makes it
in
look
pass
natural.
rushing.
Like some
Yeah,
people look
it
like they
looks
have a
good.
feel, like they have a feel for the game a certain way, and I think he already instinctively knows how to use his length.
He's an athletic freak.
Yeah,
I do think his athletics are very good. I think he's quick off the edge.
like you can tell he's like having fun because like he'll just throw shit at the wall, which
Oh yeah,
can hurt him sometimes, but he'll try like a whole bunch of moves and see what works.
and his effort, dude. Like I've seen him like rush the passer, the ball gets thrown downfield, and he's still running after the wide receiver. Like he'll turn around and run towards it. Like he
Yeah,
doesn't give up on plays.
no, he does not.
I really like that about him. This was the guy I wanted to talk to you about. I'm so glad I didn't.
I like, even though he has like little experience, I like how much production he ended up getting. Like he
Yeah,
has like 16% pressure rate, which is really good. Like that's kind of up there. Like it's not like the top guys you'd see is probably getting around 20% pressure rate in college,
well,
maybe 25 if you're like elite. But
him
16 is pretty admirable. And the only problem I really have with him is like he doesn't show a lot of strength
he
only
doesn't know his
because
power's pretty
I think that leads more to
bad.
his leverage issues that he seems to put on. Like
Yeah,
he stands up a little high,
yeah. I definitely put that he needs to lower his stance a little bit.
and I think that's pretty much like
Fix it.
it really shows up against the run. That's really the big thing. Like
Yeah,
again, when he's rushing the passer, yeah, he utilizes his length very well. I think during in the run, he needs to learn maybe to set the edge a little bit more consistently, anchor better.
his wrap tackle, if I remember correctly, was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, he had like an 18% missed tackle rate.
I mean,
You
that's not
know,
the worst on
like
the list, but it's definitely not one of the best.
no, yeah, absolutely not.
He is only a redshirt sophomore too.
I know, which
And
is
dude, I don't know how you felt about this, but like I thought the way he uses his hands in pass rush pretty damn good for his
oh yeah,
experience level.
I totally agree. Like he's just like he does a lot of really good things despite that. Obviously, you'll find out you can pick shit out of his game because he wasn't part of it. And the other side of it, like he didn't play like full time either. He's
No,
another
he
one of these
didn't.
guys where he was just part of a heavy rotation in Kansas.
I
But
thought of him as a fourth, fifth round pick.
yeah, I have him. I have him actually as my top in that tier. So anyone below past this point is I think is a fourth, fifth round pick, maybe third if you really want to reach on a guy, like you really want to get him. And I have him as the top of that tier for me. Everyone else is probably like a day 2 guy overall above him.
7-1 is where that starts for me.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna want to take a shot in the guy on a guy in day 3, I think he'd be a fantastic person to develop because he's raw, but that means he's more of a blank slate, and you can just teach him really good habits right off the bat. And I think he's smart enough to pick up on that pretty easily.
All right.
Let's move on to your number 9.
So my number 9 is a guy that I had a hard time grading, but I still love him, and it's Xavier Thomas out of Clemson.
Ah, yes.
Dude, he's light, but dude, he's so shifty.
Yeah, he's just a fun watch.
Oh, I absolutely agree. That first step he makes is just absolutely fantastic. I thought his footwork off the edge was pretty good. I think he bends pretty well off the edge. And I mean, for the most part, I thought he was kind of a solid player all around.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, his strength isn't great, but he's also a lighter guy.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
he's sitting around 6'2", 244 based off his combine measurables.
he wasn't terrific in the run game.
No,
I definitely noticed some stuff in the run game.
but he's not a bad tackler. Though.
No,
Like,
no, I
once he
think he's a
gets
pretty
there,
good tackle.
I think it's him
A
getting in
tackler.
position that is the issue, or not getting beat off the ball by guys because, like you said,
Or if he gets
he's pretty light.
clamped by an offensive lineman, he ain't getting out of it.
I've seen some tight ends too, also kind of
get
him a couple times, but like you said, I mean, he is absolutely tenacious. Like he always plays at a top gear all the time.
Agreed.
Like his burst, like you said, his first step explosiveness plus his bend, like he is like a highlight reel waiting to happen. He's an older player that's been marred by injuries throughout the years. He played for like 6 years. Like broke his foot in 2022.
Yeah.
And he had a couple of other injuries earlier in his career that I don't think he played like a real full season aside from this last year. I have to double check that, but I just have his injury concerns for me. I mean, a 6 years experience is actually a good thing overall. I think he does have a lot of nuances to his game that, like, his hands are always kind of moving and swiping guys. He's like very active. So he doesn't really get caught by tackles too much. I mean, once he does, though, he's pretty much done.
Yeah. His athleticism, dude, is just... I couldn't keep him off my list just because of it.
Yeah.
I mean, what I saw in tape was a guy who just is really good with the speed off the edge. I was really impressed with him.
Yeah. I have him as my number 12 guy, actually. Just because of his strength was just... Him in the run game, I thought was going to be a liability overall.
I agree.
And I don't see him getting starting reps that soon. Just as another one of these designated pass rusher types that could be a good backup and part of the rotation just to give guys a break for his first couple years while he develops. But
yeah, I do think that as well. But I do kind of see him as a third round pick, somewhere in that range.
Yeah,
late third, fourth.
Yep, that's where I have him. I have just behind. Like, I have him in the same tier as Booker. I just like Booker more.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you there. Very different skill sets.
Just because I thought Booker could at least develop into a 3-down guy at some point, but we'll see. That's a stretch right now in his point. But
all right,
really good choice with Xavier Thomas, though. I really do like his game.
I do.
Fun.
I've seen people put him as a 6th round pick, and I'm like, you're crazy.
No, he's definitely worth
the athlete alone. I think I could see him as a special teams guy almost immediately. I think he does definitely have upside that, like, maybe after sitting a year or two could make his way into the starting lineup.
Absolutely. Yeah. He builds up a little bit more functional strength, learns some more leverage tricks, because I did think leverage was also an issue for him that made him look weaker than he actually might be. But
I just think his strength was a problem.
Yeah.
That's my biggest issue.
I know his, like, some people say his run game stuff is actually pretty good. I would just say it's the only reason it looks good is because he has such high effort on the plays that
he also has some good D linemen around him.
yeah, like he got set up pretty well for a lot of those. All right, well, how about I do my number 9 then?
All
You can
right.
judge me fiercely. I picked Jonah Ellis out of Utah.
Okay. Where did he end up on my list? Oh man. So he actually was 21st on my list.
Holy shit! Damn,
And
nowhere even near yours.
it's weird to say too because I mean, he is 21 and he had 13 sacks and I think he had probably my favorite spin move, but his handwork bothered me.
I thought he actually had good hand usage overall.
Well,
Like, I guess maybe that's why my grade went so much higher than yours because
I didn't really care for his handwork.
I thought his handwork was good. I think he caught tackles' hands pretty well. His arm length isn't that bad. Like 33-inch arms, which will catch some starting tackles. Like he's not going to beat elite guys. Like, and I thought he had tons of different pass rush moves underneath his belt. Like I saw spin moves, swims, swipes. He always kept the offensive lineman guessing. And I thought his initial punch too gave him the space he also needed to make some extra moves if he wasn't in position to with his first move. Like I think he had some decent counters. And he's also slippery guy. Kind of
Oh, he is.
he can sneak through gaps in the run game. Now, and that's the only way I see him even contributing in the run game because he is a
I didn't like him in the run game at all, to be honest with you. I really thought he was a liability.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. His as an overall lineman in the run game, yeah, he's too light with not much strength. You can tell he can lose steam in a bull rush, and he doesn't really have the best bend. But even in the run game, like the only thing he does is just shoot gaps. Like he's not going to be setting any edges or anything along those lines.
If there's one thing about him that really bugged me, it was the drop off in performance I saw depending on the competition he played against.
Oh,
It was
really?
pretty significant. There was more of a drop off. Like he has a really good spin move, don't get me wrong. But when I first watched I was like, "Wow, this is amazing." And then when I watched him against better offensive lines, it didn't work out as well. And
Right.
I was like, "Ooh, okay, maybe this isn't as good as I thought it was initially." The guy's a high motor guy,
Oh
and
yeah.
he's young, being 21. I think he comes from a family of athletes. I can't remember if this is him or not, but I'm pretty sure both of his brothers were in the NFL.
Yeah, I think one of them was a linebacker. I think,
Yes.
and then I'm not sure what the other one was.
I forget what the other one was. But so, there's a lot of athletes in his family. Yeah, I mean, I don't hate him, don't get me wrong. But to me, with the injury history,
Yeah,
he kind of feels like a 6th round pick. There just wasn't enough there for me to be sold on.
I was just very sold on his just having not just one. Like a lot of these guys are like one trick ponies, and I definitely don't think he is.
No, I don't think he's a one trick pony.
So like, and having that tool belt to win with different moves. And it's also a projection. Like if he can get stronger and work on his bull rush a little bit more, like he's a little bit bigger than even Javon Solomon. This is why I had him higher. And he can build up more strength, work on his leverage. I think he can get a lot better over in the future. Like he's also another one of these project guys. Like he's going to be another one of these designated pass rushers with a low floor, but I think his ceiling is pretty high if he can get a little bit more strength to his game.
So my rankings for these guys in this draft class, my rank number 7 to 21. Their gradings are within 6 points of each other. 6 points. So like I gave Jonah a 78% grade, and my number 7 has an 85. That's a lot of players
Yeah.
that are really tight in grading. And it's not like I don't like the guy. I mean, I think he is.
You said you had him at a 78.
I gave him a 78.
I give him like an 80.5.
Okay.
So it's just above he's like the bottom of my next tier. So.
His injuries are probably why I couldn't give him an 80.
Yeah.
I'm kind of nervous with that.
I think with his injuries, like the torn labrum, I think the recovery for those isn't as bad as it would be. Like he won't lose his explosiveness with those. I think it did mess with his bend a little bit more. I think the injury for that is at least easier to heal from than it would be like others. But he did miss a bunch of time doing that with injuries. And I did have to knock him down. I probably would have had him a little bit higher without those, if I'm being honest.
Like, if I really had to put him somewhere fairly without the injuries, he probably would get to 15 on my list.
Okay, that's not too bad then.
So, yeah.
This is a tight knit race here. Like
It's I and
it
I
really
hate
is.
I really hate doing this stuff, man. Like, I hate because I really like most of these guys. I mean, I know a lot of people have been saying, "Oh, well, once you get to the 5th, 6th round, this draft kind of falls off." I'm like, after watching these edges, I'm sorry. That's when if you need an edge, man, like depth or maybe even a project guy, like there's so many good ones at the that will be there at the later rounds. I guarantee some of
Yeah.
these guys we're talking about may be there.
Like we said, there's tons of tools, just tons of different flavors,
And
tons of different body types. Like you're gonna get somebody that I think could be either, like you said, a good contributor or a good project that could be awesome in a couple of years.
like, I mean, there's definitely at least 2 guys that didn't make my top 10 that I like. I love.
Yeah.
Actually, there's 3. I mean, you know me, Pittsburgh guy. I gotta get my speedy edges, and
Yeah, you
yeah,
do.
I love that.
You really do love those guys.
I do. All right, so my number 8. I kind of hope this guy made your list. I'll be a little heartbroken if he did. It's Brendan Jackson out of Washington State.
No, he didn't.
No,
He's the guy I had circled to talk about at the end.
Oh,
Yeah, I
okay.
wasn't a huge fan of his game. I actually have him as a 5th, the 6th round pick.
I see him as a 4th. Dude, his fucking burst is very impressive. Yeah, he just seems to be a high motor guy. I thought his footwork was decent. I thought his handwork was decent as well. He does hit high, which is a problem. He tackles high, and I hate it.
Right.
I thought that was the biggest problem with his game. But he can play inside, and actually he played pretty well in power against centers and guards. Like I was pretty impressed with his versatility. And also, like, I saw him get double teamed a lot, and he can split 2 offensive linemen pretty well in double teams. That right there alone was enough for me to bump him up. But like, pretty much the ideal size. He's 6'4", 264.
Right.
He fits the size. He's got the strength. I thought he has really good athleticism. His IQ was good. I wouldn't say it was great. And like I said, his technique and tackle need work. But I think especially his footwork and his hand placements, I definitely think he could get better on an NFL team. And that's where, like, not to get off subject here, but him and Hicks, both coming from Washington State, these were the kind of issues I had with both of them, which was technique issues. And I just feel like a lot of it's coaching,
Yeah.
to be honest. Like, I thought the team was sloppy on the field as a whole, but they had amazing talent.
They really did. I have him as my number 15th guy.
And I understand it in some ways.
Like I do like his motor, and I think his get off was good enough to be at least somewhat consistent on his speed to power rushes, and he had enough bend in his game to get around most tackles. I think guys that had longer arms kind of took him away from that a lot of the time, but he is good enough with his hands to also mitigate those too. I thought he was at least consistent enough with that, but
And for his production, he had 0 penalties.
oh really? That's good.
That impressed me a lot.
He just wasn't getting as good pressure rates as I would have liked to see out of him, given like he only had like 12% pressure rate, which is fine. Like that's just slightly below average of what I would like out of an NFL guy.
He also had 19% missed tackle rate.
Yeah. To me, what came off film was he's an average athlete. That's good, not great. But his sheer effort was like, and power was really, it was enough to win a lot of the time, but his technique wasn't that nice.
I agree. I think his technique wasn't as good as it could have been.
Yeah.
I don't like him on the inside. Like,
No.
I know he could do it for that team and they needed him to do it, but to me, he is an edge all day long. He should not be playing
I wonder if it was like
inside.
I wonder where that was coming from, because he played 93% of his snaps on the outside. Like he had like earlier in his
Outside what?
like outside like tackle, like
Because
way far out.
they played him in the B gap a lot,
Yeah,
like in
well,
tape.
in his 2023 he only played 1% in the B gap. Now overall, 5% of his whole career. Like earlier in his career, they had him play there.
I've seen him play there quite a bit.
I'm just
I
giving you the.
mean,
I'm just telling you the
are you
numbers of his
sure that's
alignments.
like? Can you show me that quick? Because, dude, I definitely saw him a lot on tape in the B gap. Because they have like two defensive like sets that they were doing. One where he was on the edge and they had two
Yeah,
defensive linemen on the inside, and then they would put him and another guy in the interior for certain pass downs as well.
right.
And they used it. I thought it quite a
So
bit.
only 9 snaps in the B gap in 2023, and 2 on the A gap.
That's just wild to
And
me. I swear I
now
saw him a lot.
in the earlier ones, I saw him do it more, like 18 in 2022. Let's go to 2021. 84 in 2021. So 3 years ago, they threw him in there a little bit more.
Well, maybe I was watching some older games too.
But
I watched a little bit of everything with him.
yeah, I mean, he has some good
So
versatility to his game.
I actually him and one other player. I actually had to watch a little extra on because I couldn't make up my grading on them because I really liked this guy and I thought maybe I was a little high on him. I don't know. I like what I saw.
Yeah, I mean, I gave him a decent film score overall because I think he has, even though he likes to shoot the like gaps in the run game, I do think he has plenty of strength to at least be a good edge setter. Like I think he just needs to learn to utilize leverage just a little bit more.
I agree.
But he does get low. Like I think
He does get
he
low,
has everything there. It's just
and his bull rush is pretty damn good.
yeah, I do love his bull rush. But like he just doesn't for me, he just didn't look like he had really a plan other than that though a lot of the time. Like
No,
if his bend didn't work, like he would wing it sometimes and try new things when he realized it wasn't working, but he didn't really have a plan where you see other guys like always seem to have a plan, and that's kind of what at
yeah,
least that's
that's
how I
fine.
interpreted his tape, and I just didn't want to put him in my top 10 for that.
All right. So who's your number 8?
Okay, well let's see. I hope you put him on there. Braylon Trice. Yay, he's not there either.
I did like Braylon Trice. I actually had him at 16 on my list. High motor guy, I thought his hands were pretty good. His speed was very decent, but his strength was an issue. And I saw him I wish I put a better note on this, but I do remember he missed some weird tackles.
Oh, he has a 24% missed tackle rate. Like
Does
his
he?
tackle rate
Yeah,
is
like I saw him miss some
not
tackles.
ideal.
Oh yeah, he's the one. Okay. I mean, that missed tackle rate actually pops out on the list for me. Also, ooh, yeah, okay. That's probably where. Oh, yeah, he had 6 penalties last year as well
I see.
on top of that. So, yeah, I mean, there was
Yeah.
a lot of missed tackles, a lot of penalties.
It's funny because I think so his missed tackles I think are a big product of he's another one of these gap shooting linemen. He's definitely not setting the edge very well. He plays very aggressive
Yes, he
in those
does.
points. And because he's so aggressive, I think he does he actually he's very slippery that he can actually do get through gaps really well. It's just once he gets back there, he doesn't have the insane movement skills as some other guys to make the tackle, which I think led to a lot of his tackle rate. But he has also a crazy amount of run stops, though. He's 29 last year. His production is actually pretty insane given his athleticism. He has good burst, but
He does.
he's more of a smooth guy than he is like a bursty guy, like a twitchy guy.
He was pretty smooth, but his
Yeah.
strength was a problem.
Well, here's the thing. So last year he played a little bit more inside, so he was like working as a 5 tech and a 3 tech in some like more last year than he has in previous. And like especially and that's why he had a drop off. So he had a 21% pressure rate in 2022 when he was playing mostly outside. And then it dropped all the way down to 15% when they asked him to move inside more often. He only played on the outside like 40% of the time last year, which I don't think is his game at all.
No,
I don't think he has the strength to consistently play
no,
inside. I think, and
definitely
I
an
think his
addition.
numbers show. Like he's a 21% production rate with 9 sacks coming off the outside from last year. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah,
And it shows. Like he's just absolutely relentless. He's so sneaky. He's like a heat-seeking missile. He's always going towards the ball. Whether he gets to the ball or not, is up for debate. But I think he swipes consistently. Like I think he's just such a slippery guy. Like that's the only word I can really come through is he's slippery. Like he doesn't give you a good angle for you to get your hands on him. He'll like put his arm or twist his shoulders in a way that you're not getting both your hands on his chest. But I think that does show though that he doesn't like his bull rush is okay. Like he doesn't utilize that a lot. I don't know if you saw him how his bull rush was, but
I didn't like it.
I didn't
I
really.
think it's where the strength for me was like, yeah, I don't like this.
I think he realizes that's not his game, and his
But the way he uses his hands on the edge, I really like that.
oh
I mean,
yeah,
I thought he was really good on the edge when he uses his hands right. He's a high motor guy. He's got the speed to do it. I can't remember. Was he pretty high on the edge? I can't remember his bend.
I think his bend was okay. I can look
Like I
up
didn't
once.
write any notes about it, so it probably wasn't terrible, but I didn't write anything about it being good either.
Yeah, he has average bend. Like
Okay.
he can. I think his body type's a little stockier, so I don't think he really shows the way his body's formed is made to bend that well. But
That
uh,
and trust me, I understand him making your list. I mean, he is a good player. I
yeah,
just didn't love him.
he's another one. Again, I'm gonna keep saying this probably. Uh, Designated pass rusher for a couple of years until he learns to utilize his strength a little bit more. But I think his floor is actually high enough to getting it to a backup or rotational role right away. Just because I think
He played against a lot of top tier talent.
yeah, I just think he has a lot of tools to his game that even though his strength isn't there, he can make up for in other ways, and his production really does show. As long as he's on the outside more often, I would not throw him on the inside like Washington did last year.
No, I wouldn't do that either.
Like they did throw him on the inside, but like here's the difference: 40% on the outside this last year, 69% overall in his career. Like obviously there's going to be a production drop.
All right,
Anyway, so that
8.
was my 8, and we did your 8. So let's go to your 7.
My number 7 is Adiz Isaac.
Hey, we
Penn
agree
State.
on something.
Hey, here we go, everybody.
Everyone party.
We gotta
Everyone rejoices.
we gotta get those. We gotta get some confetti.
Yeah.
I swear
It's like
for
doo-doo.
for our top 10 lists when this type of stuff happens. It's like, oh, there's one we had in common,
Everyone rejoices and claps.
and the world rejoiced today.
Yeah, I really
Dude,
like his game.
the way he stuffs the run, man, is just absolutely impressive for an edge. He's a high motor guy, great speed. His technique was pretty decent. Coming in at 6'4", 254, pretty ideal for size. His strength isn't the best, and I feel like he needs to work on his tackling technique. But I thought all around he was a pretty good player. And he's another guy who had 0 penalties.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's good.
he only missed, I think, 10%. I think he had a 10% missed tackle rate.
Yeah, that's what I have.
And he doesn't have as much play time as a lot of these other guys on this list. Look, he's a Penn State guy, so I have to be careful how I grade them. But a lot of things he did, I thought he did really well. I thought he was pretty fluid off
Yeah.
the edge, and I didn't see that from a lot of the guys on this list. My next guy on the list I thought was the most fluid, probably the entire class. But I really like him. I think he's a solid 3rd round pick. He could be a 3-down backer eventually. I don't think he's there yet.
Yeah, that's what I have written as that too. I think he could be. What I do like about his game is that he always has his eye on where the ball's at. Like some guys kind of focus a lot on the block in front of him.
Agreed.
He focuses on the ball. So he's either going, whether he's going towards the quarterback or he's following where the run game's going. And I thought he made he had 26 stops in run defense. Like when I say stops, I mean like they only ran the ball like 3 to 4 yards, 2 to 3 yards on a play.
Mhm.
Like he did a really good job within that limited area. He didn't give ground a lot.
And he could change direction well as
Yeah.
well. I didn't write it in my notes, but he definitely can.
he always has this tendency to find the path of least resistance.
Yeah,
It's not like he doesn't take the long way around. He his hand fighting. He knows how he can twist and turn and give like quick swipes and stuff to give himself that boost around the edge if he needs to. I think on his bull rush was actually better than I was expecting, even though his strength wasn't obvious. I thought he had enough pop and got enough separation that his bull rush was okay. I do think he needs to build some strength into his lower body to drive a little bit more,
agreed.
but his motor's fantastic.
Yeah, he's a good dude.
I don't know if you saw this though. So sometimes when I'm watching it seemed like he had like a half step delays on his snap count. Like when the ball snapped, he always seemed to like be the last one to move sometimes.
I
I don't know
actually
if you
didn't
saw
notice
that.
that. No, I'll definitely have to look back at that. But I mean,
Maybe it was just that one
there's
game, but it was just something I just kept picking up. Like, oh, he's the last one again. Oh, he's the last one, and I just kept seeing it over and over again. I'll probably have to watch another game to see if that was just that game specifically. But if that is a consistent issue, that's something that could be easily fixed. Obviously, I just saw that. But if he takes that bad habit in the NFL, like every second matters, and you taking that half step
oh,
is going to be the
absolutely.
difference between a
You're
completion or something along those lines. But
that first step is everything.
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
yeah, I agree with you. I mean, that first step sometimes isn't fantastic. And look, I don't mean to take a cheap shot, but I'm gonna make it. If he didn't have Chop Robinson on the other side, he wouldn't have had as much production. When you got an elite edge rusher on the other side of you, it's hard for me to say, oh well, okay, well you got that hit, but it's because they started focusing on the other guy who was beating you there. Uh, I do. Don't get me wrong. I like Adisa Isaac a lot, but I think without Chop Robinson, he was a little bit of a liability. Definitely, I think it was the Ohio State or was the Michigan game. He was out of one of those games. Chop Robinson was out of one of those games, and without him, you don't see Isaac making the plays
Yeah,
that you do when he's in.
as it usually goes in the NFL, like having multiple guys on a line put like is preferable. Like obviously, like that's probably the most obvious statement you can ever make. But the more guys you have, the more things you open up. And I don't think Isaac will ever be this dominant player.
No, I don't think so either.
But I think as like a number two guy or potential, like I don't think he'll be a number two yet. I think it would take him a couple years.
I think there's an ability there to do it.
Yeah, but like definitely gonna be rotational for now. I think he can play multiple systems,
I
whether
think,
3-4, 4-3.
yeah,
It's just hard to say where because if he's gonna
I
go
see him as
like
more of a 3-4 guy.
yeah, if he's gonna be more of an inside guy, I think he should be able to get a little bit more weight.
Oh, absolutely.
But if he's gonna be an off ball guy, then definitely get a little bit more leaner, get a little more explosiveness to your game.
But his
That's probably my
intelligence, as we've said, I mean, is really good. I,
yeah.
I think his football intelligence is very clear. Like you can tell he watches tape.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
that simple. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have a guy who's already good at decent with good leverages and great hand fighting, and which is for project guys, you're not gonna already have that for a lot of people. So
absolutely.
how about we go to? I guess I'll do my number 6 this time, and then
Yeah.
do that. I have Darius Robinson.
Ugh.
You didn't like him?
I mean, he's my number 4.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
I,
That's whatever.
I like him up a little further, and it's just because he is just an elite athlete.
He is an absolute beast.
He's extremely versatile.
His wingspan is like the longest of the class. Like he's in the 97th percentile when you're doing his entire wingspan measurables,
And even
which
with
is awesome.
even with his size, his bend was pretty good.
Yeah. So he's
Um,
so Darius Robinson out of Missouri,
so
6'5", 285 with 34.5-inch arms and massive hands.
so I'm gonna give a little sneak peek here. He is in my D line list as well
Okay, so you think he
because
can play
I think
inside?
he could play defensive end. I mean, dude, he's 6'5", 296. Like that's more defensive lineman weight. But it's so weird. He doesn't look like he's that big.
No, he
Because
doesn't.
it's actually funny. Like when I was evaluating Braden Fisk from Florida State, I looked at their size and weight, and they were the same size and weight, and I'm like, what the heck? These don't look like the same person at all.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
I think Braden actually might have been 6'4", instead of 6'5", but they're pretty much the same weight and pretty much the same size, and the body is just absolutely different.
He's just all lean muscle, this dude.
He
Like
is, and he's still pretty raw.
yeah. That's
And it's this is and as I was telling you off air, him and Rakestraw to me drive me nuts because they're both elite athletes. And Rakestraw, by the way, is the corner from Missouri. These are both guys that are elite athletes that are like super raw and show high end talent.
just didn't put it all together yet.
They didn't. And some of his tackling techniques I didn't think were very good. I
mean,
felt at times he didn't read the quarterback that well.
Yeah, he was too raw for me to put him in my top 5.
And I understand it. I really do, but it's just the ceiling is as high as it goes with this guy.
Absolutely. Like I love watching him explode. His strength and the way he uses his length is absolutely monstrous in pass rush. Like he's
Yes.
probably the scariest bull rush I've seen so far.
Oh yeah, dude. I
Like-
wouldn't. Yeah, no.
And he does have like a backup move if the bull rush isn't working. He does like this push pull technique where he'll start pushing and then pull the guy down and then run towards the guy. Like I really like some those, but it's obviously his tool belt is very limited right now.
And one thing I did notice that really impressed me with him is when he knows he's not going to beat somebody around the edge, he definitely will place himself for like a second, read the quarterback, read the play in some ways, and then readjust. And I really like that about him because he's really made up on some plays based on that. It's like, okay, this didn't work. How can I utilize this play to the best of my ability? Where you don't see that with a lot of guys.
I mean, that's what you want. I mean, he has all the physical attributes you want in a specialist, like you said, defensive end specifically too. I think you can, even against certain guards. So if you have a good guard matchup, I think he could beat those guys pretty well if you just want to straight up overpower them.
So it's crazy with him because like I could see him putting on a little more weight and just being a defensive end, or I could see him leaning out 10 pounds and staying as an edge. I think I might like him more though as a defensive end, if I'm honest.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, it all depends on how he wants to develop. Because I mean, like you said, he does have some bend to his game just for his size. Though I don't think it is enough to be consistent in the NFL.
That's fine.
And I think he has, the only issue I have with him as a defensive end is that I don't think his first step is that good.
No, he's slow off the line.
So,
and that's where I really think I like him more as the defensive end instead of an edge.
Well, that's what
you got to have that step.
Well, I actually kind of think the opposite, just because you can, at least with the edge, you can build up speed more. You have a little bit extra time to build up speed and utilize his bull rush and his power. Whereas if he's closer to the alignment, he doesn't have that much time to build it up. That's why I kind of like him more on the edge for right now.
That's fine.
Unless I see that change, like if his get off gets better, I just don't see it getting better. I don't think he had very good testing numbers when it came to the explosive testing, but I'd have to go back and check.
No, that's fine. So yeah, he was my number 4.
Obviously my 6.
So my number 6, probably gonna get shot up for this one.
Oh, I know. Hold on, I'm gonna guess. Is it a UCLA kid?
It is a UCLA kid. Latu Latu.
No, I didn't know if you were gonna do it, and I see you did it.
I mean, okay, let's go. Let's start with my biggest reason of why he's low on my list, because this guy is ranked on a lot of people's boards as the number 1 guy. Yeah, well, there's something that I haven't heard enough about that has me very concerned, and it's that he has a history of neck injuries.
Yes, he does.
I don't know why this isn't more talked about, because I'm sorry, there's been too many players that come out with neck injuries and it never works out.
You know, he retired technically, right?
Yeah.
He medically retired.
He medically
came
retired
out of
2 seasons ago.
Yep.
And to give you a perfect example of somebody who had very similar issues to this, Leighton Vander Esch was another guy who had a handful of neck injuries early in his career. And I'm sorry, it's what killed his career. I loved Leighton Vander Esch. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I was a huge fan of him. But when you see these type of injury histories, it's a giant red flag. But let's talk about what's really good about him. I think his hand usage was probably the best
Oh my
of
god, yeah.
anybody.
He's so his fan everything about him is speed. Hands
But he's so
and body movement
smooth too
and
off the
smooth.
edge. He's
Yes.
so fluid off the edge. He stays so balanced. I think his technique is really good. And actually, I thought he was pretty decent in coverage as well. Like when I saw him covering people, like I was pretty impressed.
Yeah. Got 2
Um,
interceptions in his this past year on
did
it.
he? I
Yep.
didn't even write that down. That's good. But man, I really do like this guy. It's not that. It's just I'm afraid of what his career is going to look like with his injury history. Also, I did think he plays a little high at times.
Oh yeah, for
He
sure.
stands up maybe a little too much for my
Though
liking, and it's
I will say I have that same note probably for the rest of these guys. I don't really see a I have the similar notes to all of them.
bend is something that I'm like you have to have it.
Yeah.
But and because he gets so high, there was a lot of times that I saw Talisi Fuaga bully him. I mean,
Well,
he
yeah.
bullied him.
I think if none of his tricks work, I don't think he has anything left. Like he is not his bull rush is not good.
No, it's not. It's not very
But
good.
he has so many pass moves and counters, and like he always leaves the lineman guessing. And it's like, especially if the guy isn't athletic, he's going to eat their lunch all day. You put him up against any really non-athletic, that athletic of a tackle, and he's going to win. And in experienced tackles, he's going to win. So, like, you're going to put him against some of the elite guys. That's why I only have him. He's my number 3 in this draft.
And I get
Um,
it. He probably would be for fourth or third for me. I think yeah, I probably would put him at third if it wasn't for the injury history.
Yeah, I just think over like in the NFL right now, I think he could be a day one impact starter, not as a number 1 edge, but as a complement to someone who already is your number 1 edge. Like I would
I could see the possibility.
just
There
because he has so much to his game.
so another issue I had with him was he had like a 24% missed tackle rate. That ugh,
Yep, another one of those gap shooting guys.
that bothered me a lot.
He's a boomer bust in the run game because he had 33 stops and a lot of those were tackles for losses. But when you're shooting in the run gap, you're putting yourself out of position sometimes, and if you're not, you're technically you get a hand on a guy, that's called a missed tackle, and you're gonna miss a lot of those. But he forced 3 fumbles too this year. Like he has a great punch to the ball.
Yeah, I've seen his punches pretty good, and like I said, like technique wise, off the edge, it's really good. I don't know if I see him as a day one starter. Maybe I think he's an early third round pick, late second, especially with an injury history like this.
Nah, I have him as a straight up round 1 guy for sure.
And
Late round, but
I can't, not with the injury history.
it's understandable.
And I'm sorry, the next 4 guys we're going to talk about, I think, are all better than him.
Yeah, that neck injury definitely will be
It's
a
very
factor overall.
concerning.
It just happened 3 years ago, and his production rate is so insane. Like 20% pressure rate in 2022 with 12 sacks, 21% pressure rate in 2023 with 15 sacks. Like he just has so many things in it to his game that I think will just make him an impact player right off the bat. I don't know if you saw how good his bend was too. Like
It's pretty good.
he got this weird body contortion ability where as soon as he hits the edge and he gets around him, he can turn on a dime and get the guy. Like I've seen some crazy twists towards the pocket that I did not see any of these guys do aside from maybe the other lankier players.
He was definitely different
But
than the rest of the guys on this board. Yeah, I mean, the injury history bugs me.
understandable. I mean, that's kind of why he's at 3 for me. Like he definitely, I think he could be in contention with the top 2, but I think he's solidified as my 3rd just because of that. But I
Actually,
think
I'm sorry. He would have been number 4 on my board if not for the injury history.
gotcha.
That's where I would have him. All right, so who's your number 5?
I have
Or actually, who did you have at 6 again? That was Robinson?
Yeah, Darius Robinson.
Okay, so 5.
Okay, so I have Chris Braswell out of Alabama. Where'd you put him at? Not on your list?
Chris Braswell is my number 2.
Is he really?
I love him. I
Wow.
love Chris Braswell.
Fascinating.
In fact,
That's
I
cool. I
don't
dig it. Hey,
understand why he's not higher on people's boards because as an edge rusher, I feel like he has all the tools.
yeah.
13 sacks, 10 QB hits this season, 33 hurries. He's got great bend. He's explosive. He's the ideal pass rusher size. He's got a good bull rush. He gets off blocks pretty well. 6'3", 255, man. Like, I love this guy. I do. I am very high on him. I think he's got the strength. I think his athleticism is very good. I can't believe he was a 1-year starter. This is what bugs me. And I get it. They had what's his face, the third pick overall from last year. Why can't I think of his name? Anderson. Well, Anderson was in front of him, so I get it. He had to sit. I just feel like when I compare him to the guy who was starting on the other side, I do think he is this guy is the ideal edge rusher for me. His pass rush was fantastic. I mean, I saw him so many times off the edge, just be able to get by some pretty decent tackles. I thought his run defense was pretty good. I think his technique is really good. I think he reads the quarterbacks well. Like, I can't talk enough about this guy.
I think he was the first guy that I thought actually played run defense really well. Like, there's some guys later on in the back that I thought did really well, but out of like the consensus, like top 5, 6, I thought he was the best in like run defender right off the bat. Like, he has all the power you could want to anchor and set an edge. He could push back linemen in his bull rush. Like, his bull rush is nasty. I mean, he's always working. Like, his motor is just as good as anybody else's in this class. Like, I don't know. I really do love his game a lot.
Like,
So when I have him as my 5, my only issue would be I did not think his bend was good. I thought his
you
bend
didn't
around
like
the
his bend? Really?
no, I didn't.
I'm
I think
surprised I did.
it's his body shape that kind of
So a
didn't really
lot of
do it.
people say that, but I just feel like he does get underneath well.
Well,
I don't think it's like
his
elite.
his bend is one thing. His when he can dip underneath arms and stuff really
Yes.
well, and but I think that's a different thing. Like, where you're bending, you're putting your one arm out and like you're twisting your body, and you can make sharp turns.
But even
Whereas
like
he's kind of like he doesn't turn incredibly well
no, but he
overall.
does get underneath offensive linemen very well.
Oh yeah, his leverage is insane.
It is very impressive how he does it.
Like, his legs, like he drives guys back.
I think
like
his
just
footwork,
churns them out.
the way he chops his feet is just like exactly the stuff that coaches, rant to you every single day.
Especially out of a 3-point stance, dude.
Yeah.
Oof, nasty.
Well, and my biggest issue with him, like the thing I would work on if I was him, is his hands. I think he needs to work on his hand placement.
That's
I just
where
think
had him.
I think it was definitely something I think it was the only way offensive linemen were able to block him was if they could beat him with their hands.
Yeah, he has
He
only has like 1,000 snaps to his name.
I hated
shows
the rotation.
It's probably like the 3rd or 4th least amount of reps in this class, and it definitely shows in his technique a little bit.
But let me tell you something. When he played against Michigan, if there was one thing I noticed when he wasn't on the field, that's when they made the big plays that turned that game. All like I think 3 of the 4 like turning point plays that Michigan pulled on Alabama to win that game to get into the championship game were when he wasn't on the field.
Yeah, I don't know. It just feels like Braswell by himself is okay. Turner by himself is pretty good, but having both of them there is phenomenal.
Well, they also got 2 defensive linemen that are pretty impressive.
Right.
One we will talk about on our next podcast for sure. I will definitely be talking about him.
Yeah, I totally agree about his hands though. Like, I don't think he has plans for his hands. I think he kind of it looks like he just kind of flails them around and just knocks them around. Like, it doesn't seem like he has a plan with it. Like, it's not calculated strikes. It's more just, I'm going to get your arms off me kind of thing.
So
but we'll see. I mean, like I said, his inexperience is just the factor right now, but I think his ceiling is through the roof overall.
So let me ask you this. What kind of grade did you give him overall?
I gave him a pure day 2 grade, but an 84 grade overall.
Wow, 84.
Yeah, I didn't.
You
I
had
say
10 to that, and that's what I gave him.
94. Jesus,
I like him a
I
lot,
don't
dude.
think I had. I
I
had
think
nobody in
he's
this class above a 91.
well. I think my highest is a 96,
Okay.
but I base my grades based off of the class and based of what I've seen in the past. And yeah, I mean, I put him up there as a 94% out of the
Gotcha.
people I've watched over the years.
Oh, I see.
I see him as a day one starter, and I think he's a first round pick. In fact, of anybody on this list, if I personally was taking an edge in round, wanted to take an edge in round one, Braswell would be my guy.
I mean, he does have like a lot that you want. Like he has the tool set to be a 3-down guy, which you don't really see that a lot. Like I don't think even Latu has that capability right now. Who's going to probably go higher in this draft? I think because of his inexperience a little bit, he's going to take a year or two to really become a starter. But I think he could be a real impact starter in a year or two. He'll put him in rotation and he'll help out a lot. Not as a full-time starter.
The only reason he's not number one on my board at edge was because of his playing time.
Oh, I see.
That
Damn, you
was
really loved him that much.
I love him, big fan. Didn't think I was gonna like him either after watching offensive tackles because I definitely watched a bit of Alabama. But
Yeah.
no, I really like him.
Yeah, totally fair. I mean, he's got the production to back it up too. I mean, 18% pressure rate this past year, 16% the year prior. Like when he's on the field, he's generating pressure. So
So Braswell was your number 5.
who's your 5 now? Please.
I'm gonna get shot. Dallas Turner's my number 5.
Jesus Christ. Where around do you put him at?
I think he's a late first, early second.
Wow.
I mean I like him. Don't get me wrong, and I definitely remember he was one of those players that when I watched Will Anderson last year, I was like, "Ooh, I got to remember to watch that guy." Like definitely know I'm going to be watching that guy in the future. I like him a lot, but his lean build kind of bugged me a little bit. He is an elite athlete. There's no question to me. You know, I think he gets off the ball really well. I think he's got good speed. I do think he's a pretty damn smart player too. Kind of like in the ways that I thought Kool-Aid McKinstry is. Like I feel like they read the offense pretty well. But his lean build definitely seemed to be a weakness at times. I definitely saw quite a bit of plays where his lack of strength being a problem against tackles, especially guys who are a little bit bigger
I really
and have that
do.
athleticism to them.
I see it mostly show up in the run game. Mostly,
Agreed.
like I think in the past, I think he's so explosive off the ball.
He's a good pass
Like
rusher.
his punch is like, and his first initial contact in a bull rush. I think he has a pretty decent bull rush considering he doesn't have that much strength. Like he can drive on a guy, but
I didn't see him do it against.
it's mostly his bend though that really takes the cake a lot of it. Like, and I think he has the highest upside out of pretty much the top 3 guys. I think there's guys later on that has higher upside but with less experience or less technique issues.
I think he has one of the highest floors, as far as I'm concerned.
I didn't really see
I
his
don't know about upside.
floor. I saw the opposite. I didn't really like his floor because especially in the run game,
2-year
like,
starter at edge in Alabama,
well, yeah, but
and a solid starter at that. Like he wasn't a liability.
well, I'm talking about going into the NFL though. Like my grades are always based on my projection into the NFL, like how easy it is of a time, and I just didn't see like I think it's going to take a year to really hit his stride. I mean, he has all the athleticism to be really, really good. Like his explosiveness, he's athletic, he moves smooth as hell. Like I've seen him chase Jaden Daniels from behind. Like that's how fast he is. I don't know. His first step is pretty much starts his rep every time, and it sets him up so well. Combined with his arm length, I thought was actually really good. I think he's almost 35-inch arms. It's like 34.7.
Wow, I didn't even see that. Yeah.
So he can hold off some weaker tackles around the edge with one arm sometimes, and he's done like pretty interesting experience in coverage too. He has 14% of his snaps overall in his career. he was dropped back.
Yeah, I did definitely notice that.
Now I didn't see him as like crazy effective at it. He
No.
didn't allow a lot of yaks, but a lot of yak yardage.
So with that in mind, he did have 6 penalties last year.
Fair enough.
Which is a significant amount, one of the highest on our list. And he also had a 22% missed tackle rate. And those two things alone were just like, I mean, both of those are almost double what we saw out of Braswell.
Oh
Now,
well,
I
yeah,
don't know what
absolutely.
snap counts look like, but comparing the two, because like he's another one of these players. They rotated him out, and that's when Michigan made plays. I thought it was actually kind of annoying the way they rotated him and Braswell out because they rotate them both out at the same time a lot of the time. It's like, why wouldn't you rotate one and then the other?
Right.
Like, why would you take both of your like key pass rushers out? I just don't understand it. Like to me, Braswell is their best player on the defense. He was the
I think
leader.
he's the better overall player. I think Dallas is the more impactful player.
Like
So,
like, and I'm even including guys like Arnold on the board
oh really? Wow.
and McKinstry. Like, I think he was my favorite. Like, no doubt. I thought he made the most impact, even when he wasn't making plays. He just seems to always be there.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
Braswell seemed like the glue, whereas Dallas Turner was like the power, the impact player. Like he was
oh,
allowed to
he's a
make
boom bust
mistakes.
guy.
Like I don't know, like he had over 100 snaps more than Braswell. So what you're saying is true.
Yeah,
This past year, but it was like 550 for Braswell and 650 for Turner. I
and I
mean,
still think they should have had him on the field, both of them on the field more.
this is my weakness though for him. I mean, because of his lankier size and build, like he did have difficult time setting the edge, and he could be taken out in run situations. And the other side of it is, I mean, you'll see him as a fantastic pass rusher, and he has some good moves for it. I think he just needs, if he could develop a little bit more, I think he could be almost unstoppable.
And I like him a lot. Don't get me wrong. I mean, our top five, I love all five of them.
Yeah,
All five.
he's my number two in this draft
I
based
think it's
off.
so funny we swapped them.
I know he had a better pressure rate than Braswell, but by a slight amount. Like I'm like picking, being nitpicky on that one. The 19% overall,
I
but
just think when I looked at the tackles we loved in this class, I feel like Braswell played so much better against those guys than he did.
yeah. Well, I think a lot of them weren't used to power. Those kinds of guys, because I mean Braswell has the power, but
Yeah, and I didn't see enough of that out of Turner.
I think I think
Not to his regard, at least.
yeah. I mean Turner doesn't utilize strict power. His explosiveness is so good, and his get off of the ball is so good that it can make his bull rush effective. It's just he's so much better at being a bender than he is a bull rusher that you will use that more often.
Okay, so let me get this straight. So Robinson is your 6,
Darius Robinson, yeah.
Letu is your 3,
Yep. Brazel's my 5.
and that leaves Turner your 2.
Yep.
So okay, so we've said your 4.
We did not say my 4. We just did my 5.
Okay,
And you
so
did your 4, right? Was Turner your 4 or 5?
Darius Robinson was my 4. Dallas Turner was my 5.
Okay, well then Chop Robinson's my 4.
He's my 3.
Okay, fair enough. What I'll say about Chop, I mean
I do have favoritism.
he's another one of those athletic freaks.
Yes, he is.
It's Jesus Christ.
I love Chop.
Like
There's bias with my grade. There has to be.
Chop Robinson out of Penn State being around 6'3", 254, 32.5-inch arms. He explodes off the line.
He does.
Like he uses that too to push pockets, like to an absurd degree. His testing numbers were so good. I just wanted to put him out there for his size at the position. He was in the 97th percentile in his 10-yard split, which is like your acceleration. 98th in the broad jump, which is your overall explosiveness in the first in your legs, and a 99th percentile in his 40. That is
He's a freak,
top tier like
And-
explosiveness and acceleration combination of a player.
So you said about his arm length only being 32 and a half, which is small. It's funny. He uses those 32-inch arms as like a guy who has 34s.
Yeah,
I
he
think
does.
he really uses his hands well. He's a freak athlete, man. I love the guy to death. I think maybe I was a little hard at him at first, and I was like, I don't know if he's a top 5
It's
edge
called
in this
it's
class.
called tough love, you know.
Yeah. Ever heard of tough love? If there was one complaint I had, it was finishing tackles. I felt like at times he just didn't finish tackles the way I would want him to. he didn't wrap guys up completely, or
So it's just his technique, really.
yeah, I
Because he had like
think
a 7% missed tackle rate, which I thought was really good.
yes, but usually it's because somebody else was there to hit him at the same
Oh,
time,
okay. Yeah.
or like maybe Isaac would get the second hit on him, or somebody else would get to the ball carrier
That makes
around the same
sense.
time as him. Yeah, what did you say he had as a missed tackle rate? It was
7%.
yeah 7%. I was kidding. I did have the same. He only had one penalty the whole year. And that's pretty impressive. How many sacks did he have?
He had 3 sacks,
That's what I thought.
but he had a crazy good pressure rate. He with Brad like up there with Braswell, 18%, and Turner. Like,
I did like Braswell more, and obviously he's my number two. So, I mean, his pass rush is fantastic.
oh yeah,
I thought he was
absolutely.
pretty good in the run game. Like I said, I thought his technique and his IQ need work. I think his eyes on the quarterback aren't good enough. I think he's too worried about the guy in front of him at times.
Yeah, that's yeah,
And
absolutely.
I think I'd like to see him get better at that. And like I said, I think his tackle needs a little bit more work, getting that wrap in right. And his strength wasn't elite to me. It was good. It wasn't.
Right.
It could be better.
That's kind
But
of
dude,
what
I
I
love this guy. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if long term there's a 44 jersey in my cabinet. But I really enjoyed him. I'm gonna miss him a lot. He's one of my favorite edges to play for Penn State. Dude,
yeah.
the guy's a monster.
I agree pretty much with everything you said. I think he has. I think he could get stronger. I would like to see him get stronger. I think he has enough strength to set the edge, just not really push too much without a head start and push the pocket. I think his bull rushes can be effective sometimes, but it's a little inconsistent. But his bend is also really good. Like he can turn on a dime. I think he does a lot of things really well, though. I think he plays very low to the ground. Like he plays like he's hunched over a lot of the time.
Oh yeah.
Like his head's always low. I don't think I could even count on one hand how many times I've seen him high.
I mean, like, I just remember the first game he played at Penn State. I'm like, who's 44? like immediately the first play, I was like, whoa, who is that guy? I'm like, I don't remember seeing you in the past. The thing with him too is like I think he's versatile enough to be in a 3-4 or a 4-3.
Yeah,
I think he can play both. And he's only 21, man. He's still pretty young.
yeah. He's another guy I chalked down as a potential 3 down guy.
Yeah.
Um,
I think he could start day one, and I do believe he's a first round pick. At first I didn't think I was like maybe they're just a little too high on him. But just like Fashanu, I guess once I really put the tape on and I'm just dialing in on just you, man, I was like, wow, you were, because I try to keep my bias in
yeah.
check. I really do, but but
Just couldn't help yourself with this one.
I couldn't. I really couldn't, man. You said he's your 4?
He's my 4. I have him as just a pure round 2 guy. I'm not letting him fall in the third. I'm
No way.
not. I could see people reach for him in the first, but I would prefer to wait in the second.
So
I think a lot of reasoning for that is that because of his arm length, there was a lot of times I did see him get locked up and have difficulty shedding blocks in the run game. I do see him more of a gap shooter that I've seen in his game as well, that left some lanes open for running backs.
agreed.
So, but when he does it right, he can make an explosive play for the defense. Like in my notes, I have makes explosive plays that either works for the offense or the defense. So, like, he's going to make a big play happen, whether it's going to be a good or a bad thing. But other than that, I just want to see a little bit more pass rush moves in his tool belt as well.
So I was kind of thinking about this a little bit, and I don't know if they'll go for him based on the moves they've made in free agency, but I kind of see him as an edge for the Eagles.
Oh yeah,
I kind of like the fit.
that'd be
Um,
interesting.
but yeah, dude, you can't say enough. I love the guy. I mean, I really do. Definitely one of my favorites in the last few years.
Yeah, he's got tons of upside, man.
I like him for your team.
I'd be excited. I mean, I'd be
I
pumped to have
like
him.
I really like him for the Seahawks.
Definitely a potential. Definitely going to need a 1 on that team, and I think he could develop into that.
Him and Mozzie, if Mozzie can work out, have the speed on one side and have the power on the other. Oof.
Mozzie?
Yeah, he's the speed.
Who's Mozzie?
Oh, not Mozzie. Who's the guy? Who's
Oh
the edge?
boy, Mafe.
Oh, Mafe.
Yeah, yeah,
Mafe. Sorry. Mafe on the other edge.
yeah. Oh, Thunder and Lightning, baby. Let's
Dude,
go.
I would love that.
Me
That'd
too.
be a great duo.
So where are we at now? So
So I just have number one left.
I think I do too. So there's just a quick review. So I have Austin Booker from Kansas at 10, Jonah Ellis at 9 from Utah, Braylon Trice from Washington at 8, Adisa Isaac from Penn State at 7, Darius Robinson from Missouri at 6, Chris Braswell from Alabama at 5, Big Chop Robinson out of Penn State for 4, Leatu Latu out of UCLA at 3, Dallas Turner from Alabama at 2.
And my top 10 up to this point is Javon Solomon out of Troy, Xavier Thomas out of Clemson, Brennan Jackson out of Washington State, Adiza Isaac out of Penn State, Leatu Letu out of UCLA, Dallas Turner from at Alabama at number 5, Darius Robinson from Missouri at number 4, Chop Robinson out of Penn State at number 3. 2 is Chris Braswell at number 2.
And that would mean
That means we got the same number
by
one here. And
process of
wow, all
elimination,
right, let's
process of
go.
elimination, we have Jalix Hunt out of Houston Christian.
That was a dick move right there. You know what? I actually like him a lot.
I do too, actually. But
I think we might talk about him in a minute here. But
Jared Verse out of Florida State. All jokes aside, big 6'4", 254 lineman with 33.5-inch arms.
11 sacks on the year, 15 hits, 36 QB hurries.
I think he's a guy that could be a 3-down edge right off the bat.
Absolutely.
With tons of ceiling left to grow.
Jared Verse, to me, he's got like just a high level work ethic. I mean, like everybody talks about it. Like from the time he was at Albany to the time he was at Florida State, he's got the power. He's got great hands. I feel like his bend a lot of the times is really good. He's insanely explosive. I really like this guy. I mean, like the only thing I could find wrong with him is he just gets gassed at times.
Oh, well, his conditioning is a little.
His conditioning's a little meh. So this guy actually came in Albany, I think, as a tight end. If you're gonna look it up, definitely check out his story. It's really interesting. He started at Albany, and then in 2020, when they locked down, I guess he really beefed up, and they ended up swapping him over to edge. But I would definitely check out his story. It's really cool.
No.
He's a PA guy, so he's from out in Bloomsburg, which I thought was awesome. Me being a PA guy, obviously. His size is amazing. I thought his strength was great. Like I said, athleticism top notch. I think he reads the quarterbacks pretty well. He seems to get to the right spot when he needs to. I like him all around. He's the clear number one on my board.
It's pretty obvious for me too. Out of the top 3, I think he has a little bit more balance to his game than the other 2 guys. His power technique in pass rushing is phenomenal. His pads are almost always lower than the tackle, and I've seen him knock tackles on their ass.
I have
sometimes.
seen it. I've seen him do it.
His hand placement's fantastic with some strong swipes to get around the edge. Like
dude, he rips.
He's so violent. He seems like he's playing angry a lot of the time,
and yet he has 1 penalty for the entire year.
That was really good.
As crazy as he plays, he's a smart tackler. Like I don't think he's going to get in trouble for hitting the QB late and stuff like that. Like I thought he was pretty decent.
Yep. He's not a one-trick pony. He has a fantastic swim move that I love watching.
But he can bull rush very well.
Yep, he can. He has a good push and pull too to counter that. He's the guy that has everything plus the moves. Obviously, all the guys later in this draft either have like just moves or strength, and usually not both. But he definitely has both. Like I will say, his probably biggest weakness for me is his undisciplined discipline against the run. He will leave gaps open. He likes to shoot gaps. He's a little over aggressive, which led to his 19% missed tackle rate.
I also think for a guy who's a 2.5 year edge, I didn't think that was terrible.
Well, he had over 1,500 snaps. Like I think, which is still pretty good.
But he was a tight end in high school and in college.
I still gave him a decent run defense grade just because I do see him. He can set the edge effectively. Like he has the strength and the anchor to do it. I have seen him compliment his team that way. it's just not what his preferred play style was, or they just didn't ask him to do it that much.
I mean,
But
his ceiling to me is the moon.
yeah, it is.
It really is.
Other
Like,
than
I
him being
love
an
him.
older prospect, like you might get like one more big contract out of him, but I mean that's you don't have to think about that. You just want guys, and he's definitely a guy.
So,
One thing about his
I'm
bend,
sorry.
though, I will say, I did think it was a stiffer than the other. That's maybe the top four guys I have.
He's also bigger than them
Yeah,
too.
he is. He has some bend, but you can tell he likes to use his hands more than he likes to bend. Like he likes to use his swipe moves and clubs and stuff to really get around the edge over pure bend. But anything he does have some though. Like it's not like I'm just being a little bit like if I'm comparing the two, the him, Dallas Turner, and Liatu, he has the least bend out of those three. But that's not a big deal. Like he's just so strong.
So when I look at him, there's one team that I can circle and say I would hate to see you go there, and it's the Bucks. I feel like the Buccaneers would utilize him very well.
Oh, I think so too. Yeah,
He just reminds me of the way they use edges. I just man, I love this guy. I really do.
yeah. He's a real fun player, and
I think he was the only one that watching tape of edges, I was like, I think I'm gonna like you. I think I'm gonna like you.
it just stuck true the whole time.
It did. It really did. I mean, I've watched a lot of FSU this year to the point where I'm like so burned out by their tape, and I still got a few to go.
Yeah.
I know I got a tight end, a running back to watch,
Oh, I'm
and
excited
and
for
I
that one
just
though.
finished up the defensive lineman. So, ugh, so
Gotta
much Florida State.
keep powering through. But yeah, I mean, I think this class, though, there's no clear top tier talent, and
Yeah, there's no Nick Bosa's or that type.
I think you're gonna have. I think it's deep enough. You're gonna find yourself a really good role player or project, as we've said before. I mean, given how different our lists are in placements and what we value, as long as you're getting somebody that fits your system or that you feel is going to be a contributor, by all means. I mean, there's tons of them on here. So, all right, so we'll wrap this up. We'll
We're gonna
do
talk.
that by we'll talk about four guys. I only really want to talk about one.
Well, we're talking about four guys that didn't make our top 10 that we really want to talk about.
Yeah, we'll just make it quick. Our quick
Yeah.
we'll do like why we didn't like them in the top 10, but why we want to put them as a gem. So since I'm only going to put in one, you can give three if you'd like.
Let's see if you get my three.
All right, let me do mine first, then you can just rapid fire yours.
Okay.
So I'm going to go with Marshawn Needland out of Western Michigan.
Okay.
I mean, I thought he has a lot of good measurables to
His
his
power's
tape.
awesome.
Like pure power guy. Like doesn't have much else to his game in the pass rush, I don't think. Basically, if you want an uber athlete that really only knows how to use his strength, hold gaps, set edges, and power rush, he's the guy for you. But
He had a good rap tackle.
And he's good and a good tackler. I just, all I want out of him is definitely more nuances to his game. I don't think he has that much experience with it either.
Yeah, his hand technique and his technique in general, I just thought was bad.
Yeah.
And I thought he was just such a weird player. And I know I've talked to you about this off air, but like in a 3-point stance, he's not explosive at all.
No.
In fact, I thought he was like ridiculously slow. But like when he's in a 2-point stance on the edge, like he's pretty explosive.
Yeah.
It's really weird how there's that like trade off with him. But also, I didn't think his bend was good. I think he's high.
I didn't think his
too
bend was
often.
good either. But I mean, overall, he showed a lot with a caveat of lesser competition. But I think he dominated a lot of reps there. But that's all.
Yeah, that's fine. So the first one I want to talk about is Miles Cole out of Texas Tech. Dude, this guy makes good angles on the ball, which is something I didn't see from a lot of these players. I thought his technique was pretty good as well, and I thought he was pretty decent at reading the quarterback. The only issues I would say is his power was pretty weak. But I mean, he came in at 6'6", 280, so he's definitely a little bigger than some of these guys, which is crazy that his strength wasn't as good as I expected it to be. But I thought pass rush, he was pretty good. I mean, he's another zero penalty guy as well. All right, so do you got one more, or
No,
you
you
just
keep
gonna let me
going.
hit him?
I just felt like talking about Neatland a little bit.
All right. I also would like to talk about There's one guy I just would feel dirty that we didn't talk about, and his name is Jalen Green. He's actually out of James Madison, which is not really a school I usually watch. He is undersized. He comes in at 6'1", 245. But off the edge, I mean, this guy just doesn't give up. Like he hits every play 100%. And the reason I don't think many people are talking about him is because he had a pretty bad knee injury this year, and he's undersized and coming from James Madison. But he led he led his division in sacks and tackles for loss before that injury came.
Wow.
He's a high motor guy. He's good technique all around. From a guy from James Madison, that man, I really respect that a lot. And his hand usage was absolutely fantastic. I think he had like 15, 16 sacks this year, and that was with the knee injury. So I mean that's definitely something to keep in mind. I really, really like this guy. I just don't know where to put him as far as draft because of the injuries. The last guy I would like to talk about is Muhammad Kamara, who has a very similar story. It's another undersized guy coming out of Colorado State. This guy's another speed rusher who has pretty good hand usage. He's good bends. You know, he can play either side of the field, and actually sometimes they even put him on the inside. But he comes in at like 6'1", 250. He had a ton of sacks this year. He's another guy who just fights 100% all the time. Like he's going to put the effort in. You know, I see this guy as a later round talent. I mean, I think he's probably like fifth, sixth round, but this guy could definitely become a starter. The way he can go, the way he is utilized in pass rush, excellent. I really, really enjoy his tape. Only problem I would say with him is he had 7 penalties. I didn't like that.
I guess I'll drop Jalix Hunt since we mentioned him earlier.
Yeah, since you did verse dirty and
I was
throw him in there like that.
Yeah, so Jalix Hunt, Houston Christian. He's the former safety that converted to edge.
Yep. I didn't even know about this college before this guy.
Bunch of monstrous traits, athletic traits,
Absolutely.
and length. I think he's in the upper 90th percentile when it comes to his explosive testing. But I mean, I like a lot of his game. I think he's a great tackler, and I think around the edge, if he just learns to get lower, I think his bend could really show. He showed amazing bend sometimes, but he just doesn't get low enough all the time. And I think he also lacks the play strength and nuances to some of the positions that, like, you can tell he's still new. So, but I just want to give him a shout out.
He's actually probably the most raw prospect I watched, but I think his ceiling is very high.
Yeah,
because his athleticism is fantastic. His strength and his speed, and even his improvements that I saw from the 3 games I watched, like as the season went on, he definitely got better as the season went on. I definitely saw improvement.
Yeah, just a fun project to have from a not small school, I guess, but
it's as small as it gets, bro.
Okay, well then there you go.
I didn't
Fun
even
project
know it was
out
a
of small
college.
school. All right. Well, thanks again for listening.
Next up, we got D lineman. We're getting all excited for the draft.
Hell yeah, interior guys for the win.
Woo!
All right. Thanks again. Bye.